Hey, my name is David Buck, and in this video we're going to unlock the secret to epic drone photos, no matter which drone you have. So I've got a little secret to share with you, and that is none of the photos that you've seen so far are actually photos. So hang in there and I'll show you a better, more efficient way to use your entire drone flight time to capture whatever it is you want to capture and make it awesome. So the biggest limiting factor that we have in our drone flights is our battery life. And so we'll be up in a beautiful place and we'll be thinking, oh hey, this is lovely, I want to get this angle, and this angle, and we just don't have enough battery life to do it all and take photos. Because when you're doing a cinematic drone shot, you'll be going around something. Well, in order to stop and take a video, you would have to either stop this shot, take the photo, go back to the start again and do it again, or finish the shot altogether, finish, come back to the spot, take a photo, compose it, and then move on to the next shot. And the time that you lose in doing that is very precious. I mean, you want to be moving on to the next shot. Now, the reason we're taking all this drone footage is for our travel and nature relaxation channel, Just Beautiful, which you can find and subscribe to in the top link of the description down below. So what I'm actually doing, in order to optimize the efficiency of every flight and get the most out of each one, I'm shooting video and taking the stills out of the video, the screen grabs if you will, but the 4K exports of that frame of the video, and using those as my photos. So I am actually shooting, intending to photograph, but I'm doing it with video. Now all this comes with a little bit of a caveat. There are times that I will still shoot photos when I need a longer exposure, when I'm doing time-lapse, that kind of stuff that's photo specific. But for the most part, when I'm up and shooting, I'm shooting video and I'm grabbing the stills from it. So for this video, I flew out to get a direct comparison using this video right here. And I grabbed a screenshot from this and I took a photo just before I started the flight. And so these are the two side by side. One's a photo and one is a direct pull from the video. Now, as far as I'm concerned, they look awesome. They both look awesome. I would be happy with either one of these, and they're 4K in size, they're big, we can do whatever you want with them, but the big thing is the color, the sharpness, the overall look of the photo is basically identical. So I don't want you to think that you're losing a bunch of quality here by using this method. So as long as you've got good exposure with your photo, good exposure with your video, you're getting the best out of these cameras. Now, I did a little zoom in of a direct comparison of these two, and you can see that there is definitely a bit of a difference. And one I took directly from a DNG RAW, and the other I took from the video. So the algorithm within the software, within the drone itself, is doing a lot of work to these images. There's some processing going on behind the scenes, and I mean, I think I like the video one a little bit better. Now this will change now and again with your processing, how you process the RAW, what settings you're choosing, what sharpness and clarity and all that kind of stuff. But frankly, the engineers at DJI are certainly paid a lot more than I am to make sure these things are right. And so, I mean, I'm just blown away at how close these are. They both look really, really good. Here's another one. It's not a direct comparison because, again, it was shot at the same time, but it wasn't shot at the same video. I didn't get it at the same time. So I had done a full zoom out of this one here, and then came back closer to do a photo. And so I wasn't able to get to quite the same spot, but I mean, one's a photo, one's a video, or a screenshot from a video. I think they both look amazing. So quality-wise, we're looking good. It looks amazing either way. So whatever method you want to use, you can use. So one of the huge benefits to this method is timing. And timing is just something you can't fake. I've been a photographer a long time, I've got a lot of gray hairs, and I've spent the last decade and a half capturing moments with weddings and in professional photography. And I would say I'm pretty good at catching a moment, but you just can't predict some of these things. So using this method, you really have the opportunity to capture things that you otherwise wouldn't, which I see as a huge, huge bonus. So this particular photo here, personally, I love this photo, but I want to show you what the video looked like when this frame came up. I was over tops with some surfers in Todos Santos, Mexico, and I was trying to get somebody to have a wave, and then all of a sudden this happens right there. Now, there's no way I'm gonna be able to capture that. No chance. If I'm in photo mode and I'm waiting for it, there's no chance that I could get it. And here's the cool thing. I mean, while I'm shooting it, I saw it, and I was really excited to get back to the computer. But here's where it's so interesting is that I now have the ability to say, okay, well, where was the moment? And I can choose frame by frame and figure out where the best spot was. Is it that one? Does it get more dramatic here? Is the composition better here? Are the people just in the right spot? And I think I said I liked that one right there, where he's just over the wave, and you got the shadowing of the wave coming down from the top. But I want to, oh, what happened after that? Does it change? Anyways, you have the ability to scrub through the different shots and see if there's something that works better or worse. So anyways, being able to grab a frame out of that video allowed me to capture this shot, which otherwise I wouldn't have been able to capture at all. So that is a huge bonus, having that ability to have the right timing. One of the other reasons I use it basically all the time now. So here are the things that you need to do to make this happen. Number one, you need a good exposure, and good exposure that you're going to be able to edit afterwards and get the most out of. Number two, you need to be able to compose. So frame your videos the way that a photographer thinks, so that you've got story and surrounding and shadows and light. And number three, get a good white balance. Because you're not shooting in RAW, you're not going to have the ability to change that white balance afterwards. So let's touch on each of those three. Number one, exposure. So exposure as calculated by your camera. The camera is always trying to average out the whole scene into middle gray. So if you've got black here and you've got white here, exposure, a zero value exposure is right in the middle of that, right at that middle gray level. So it looks at the whole scene and says, okay, how bright does this need to be in order to equal middle gray? So if you have equal white and black in an image, then you're going to have a properly exposed image automatically by the camera. However, life doesn't work that way. So you have to understand that DJI is trying to make their images look good on auto on zero. However, they tend to go a little bit bright. So you see here, right here, I've got this zero value, and the image is a little bit washed out. I know it's middle of the day, it's not fantastic lighting, but that's the whole point of this. So this zero value gives you just kind of a bland image, and I found that they tend towards the brighter. And when there is contrast in bright and dark, then you're losing your highlights very quickly. You can't recover them, and it's much more difficult to edit it properly. So you need to overpower the camera by clicking this button here and by stopping down your exposure. Now, minus 0.7 or minus 1 seems to be the sweet spot, I find, and things change. Obviously, if you're filming something that's completely white or very dark, there's going to be some leeway. But for the most part, I find minus 0.7 or minus 1 is kind of the sweet spot where you want to be. So if we stop that down, as soon as I drop this exposure value down, it is a little bit darker on here, as it should be, but these tones here, these colors, are so much easier to pull out in post-processing to make them that rich, beautiful, colorful thing that we expect. You know, if you're looking at footage like this one here, making sure that these right here aren't losing detail, I find very important. I want to keep it just below that so that I'm getting detail here, so it's not just white waves, it's actually water that's splashing over. And I can bring up the vibrance and the brightness of the lower tones here much more easily. So getting the proper exposure to your shot is the number one most important thing about being able to do this. Get good, well-exposed videos. Number two, good composition. Study composition, learn it, figure it out. Good composition is art. It's an artistic endeavor. However, a good rule of thumb is if you've got these grids up on your controller, you can pick any one of these points, and if the focus of your attention is near one of these quadrants, typically you're doing pretty well, because you don't want all your focus right in the center of the frame. You want in one of these intersecting points right here. So that's called the rule of thirds. Use good composition, use good exposure. Number three, white balance. Now, white balance is a taste thing. If you want your images to be cooler or warmer, which is bluer or yellower, you have that choice. However, DJI does tend to get it right with white balance. So what I do is when I get up into where I want to shoot, I click this button here. I tap the auto button on the white balance to be able to select the white balance for me, and then deselect it so that it stays that same white balance. And then in post-processing, it makes it a whole lot easier to get the right colors when you're editing a whole video or a bunch of shots from that same time period. So good exposure, good composition, good white balance. So the last step, once you get your card plugged back into your computer and you're taking the videos off, here's what I want to do. I want to pull them into my video editing software, and that could be either, I'm using Final Cut here, but Final Cut, Adobe Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, any of them will do the same thing. You can choose to color grade your videos in the editing program first before you pull the frames out, or you can do it all in Lightroom or Photoshop. So I'm going to pull my videos in. For this one, I'm not going to color grade before. I'm going to do that all in the photo editing program, and I'm going to pick a few frames here. So let's go ahead and pick some frames. In Final Cut, you need to do File, Share, Save Current Frame. In Adobe Premiere, you can press Shift-E, and that will get you a frame. And in DaVinci Resolve will do it as well. I don't know the shortcut for it. Okay, so we've got a bunch of images in Lightroom. Now, all of the photo editing that we've been teaching throughout this channel is the knowledge that you need in order to get these to the final stage, because image editing itself is a challenge. But the general rules are you want rich colors, rich tones, and not too many competing colors. So I find that the things that you want to adjust most is the whites to bring the bright point up to just where you want it. You want to adjust the shadows, and you want to go to the individual color selection panels and either saturate or desaturate different colors depending on what is in your image, so that you don't get a muddy image with a whole bunch of different colors. You get just the colors that you want to showcase. You can use the selective adjustments and make brighter, darker areas, and you can really play with these as much as you want. I encourage you to follow through on our channel on our Lightroom training. Basically, that's a photo editing beginner's guide, 14 lessons from start to finish on how to edit photos to a professional standard. And so if you are new to editing or you're not sure what to do with them, go through those videos, and I promise you I'll have the information that you need in there, because I love colors, I love photos, I love editing, and I love creating beautiful stuff. So let's just walk through this particular one right here. I'm going to see where I am as far as tone. I'm going to take my shadows up a little bit, contrast down, bring it up here at the end. I'll bump up the vibrance and the saturation for a bit. Remember, vibrance does the non-colorful areas, and saturation bumps up the already colorful areas. Let's take our hue of towards blue. Change the color of our water there a little bit. Watching our histogram, our tops and bottoms, this is where our whites come into play. We want to keep the whites just down below the top. And blacks are mainly going to be in our rocks there. So we're going to bring our shadows down a little bit. I'm going to do a selective adjustment on this object here. It happens to be the house. Then we're going to do a new selective adjustment on these objects here. And we're going to bring those down in saturation a little bit, which makes the building look more saturated. Okay, we're going to do one more. Brush in our water, thereabouts, and remove a luminance range of dark areas. And we're going to bump up our saturation on that a little bit. Sorry, it's hard to talk and do this at the same time. But I like that. Let's see how we did there. There was the before, and there's the after. And then we can do that to the rest of the images as well. So no matter which drone you have, you can create epic photos from the sky, wherever you are. Thanks guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Go over to our Just Beautiful channel and subscribe over there to see what we're doing with all of our travel and drone work. The link is in the top of the description for that. But I hope you enjoyed this, hope it helps you, so go out there and make better photos.